The brains behind India's unique identification program Aadhaar and the architect of the Digital India mission, Nandan Nilekani, said that the government did the right thing in withdrawing the data protection bill after years of deliberation. In a freewheeling chat with me, he said that the bill was getting bulkier and bulkier and needed to be simplified. He also spoke about the central bank's attempt to launch a digital currency, the state of the startup ecosystem, what next for India in this decade, and also how the current macroeconomic environment is going to impact the IT industry. Take a look.
I think, while the global economic environment does have signs of slowing down, I think technology and the role of technology in businesses has never been higher. I think the pandemic showed us that you have to be digitally well equipped. So I do believe that there is still going to be continued interest in IT, both for transformation as well as increasingly for automation and cost reduction.
One of the biggest things to come out of technology in terms of policies has been the data protection bill. And after working on it for many years, the government withdrew it and now it has come out with a new draft. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you make of this new version.
No, I think they have done the right thing because the earlier draft, because there's so many suggestions, it had become bulkier and bulkier and it had so many clauses.
Yeah.
And I think they decided rather than take that, they said let's take that learning, come back with a much more succinct and much more thoughtful version, which they have done. And once you have this law, then you can pass additional laws and additional regulations. But you have the basic framework. So I think this is the right approach.
But there's been some sort of criticism, but perhaps by oversimplifying, it's coming at a cost of detail. The word "as may be prescribed" has been used about 18 times in that draft. Do you think there is it's going to lead to some kind of problems with interpretation because of the simplicity of the bill?
No, I don't think so. I think it's good that it's simple, and all the people who are advising me on this law said that they have that clause, but it's not, a lot of it is meant for straightforward purposes. And I think this is the right approach. Get a good framework law in place, and then as you go forward, either through regulation or other subsidiary legislation, you can add more things.
Okay, we'll see what final shape it takes. But, since you've been called the Chief Technology Officer of India, let me go ahead and ask you, you said that UPI is going to be the WhatsApp moment of India. What next now? We have the OnDC, we have the, AA, we have, a lot of other digital initiatives that are coming into play, the CBDC and so on. What do you think is going to be our next big moment?
Well, I think we are at a very interesting point. In the first part of this transformation, we had digital identity with Aadhaar, we had DBT for everybody, we had UPI to transform payments and so on. In the next phase, I think there are going to be three big things. The first is democratized credit. Everybody will get access to credit, and the account aggregator system, which has been launched, it's gathering steam. Recently, GSTN was added to it. So once you make credit accessible to all, then millions of small businesses and millions of consumers will get access. That will be a big push to economic growth in an equitable manner. The second is OnDC will disaggregate commerce and make it much more inclusive, will allow more suppliers on the platform, more retailers on the platform, more consumers on the platform. So anybody can buy from anybody and so on. A third thing I think is the logistic revolution which is happening in India, partly with physical infrastructure, partly with GST reforms, partly with startups. So once you improve the ability to sell, how you sell, whom you sell to, how it's delivered, and give credit to companies to grow, that's the perfect situation that you want to be in.
But how long before the account aggregator or the OnDC or the CBDC really take off in a big way? These are still early days.
Well, account aggregator has been around for, the idea has been around for 6-7 years. I think it's reached a takeoff stage. We have 1 million bank accounts that are listed on OnDC through the banks. We have more than, I think, 2 million transactions that are happening. GSTN has just been connected, has been approved as a FIP. So I think we are now at a point it will take off. OnDC also has started its pilot projects. They were launched in November in Bangalore. They are looking at that. And logistics changes are ongoing. There are so many startups. See, in all these things, it takes time to, it takes time to get all the moving parts. But once you get it going, then it just takes off. I mean, UPI in October of 2016 was 100,000 transactions, and now it's 7.3 billion transactions a month.
Well, interesting that you brought up UPI because I want to ask you about CBDC. It's just been launched. It's still in a pilot stage. The retail CBDC is out, but there are some that believe people want to use a digital currency for its convenience. Given that UPI is already quite popular, unless you want to seek anonymity with the use of an e-rupee, do you think UPI to some extent will hinder the kind of growth that CBDC could have had without something like UPI existing?
Well, I think finally it's about solving challenges and giving benefits to people. So UPI has given that benefit of zero cost instant payments.
Yeah.
And, but I think there is the anonymity benefit of CBDC. And I think over time, as people start using this, they will figure out more use cases, both on the retail side as well as on the wholesale side. For example, settlements or cross-border settlements where you have two CBDCs and you can reduce the cost of settlement between two countries and so on. See, I think fundamentally we have to realize that the RBI is one of the most progressive and forward-looking regulators there has been. You know, I can personally say I've been working with them for 15 years. They enabled the link of Aadhaar to bank account with eKYC, then DBT with Aadhaar payment bridge, Aadhaar-enabled payment system for withdrawing money, then UPI, and now CBDC. So I think RBI has always been very forward-looking. So I think there's one more forward-looking initiative from RBI. Okay, so we'll see how that pans out. But because we're, in the startup capital of the country, so to speak, let me also ask you about those. We're proud as a nation to be the third largest country when it comes to number of startups. We have more than 100 unicorns, but, they've raised capital in what has been a tough environment now, and we're seeing mass layoffs, restructurings, shutdowns in worst cases. How do you think the scenario is going to play out from here? Well, I think in some sense, this is going to cleanse the system. Because, if somebody doesn't have a very viable business model and has essentially depended upon a lot of capital to build, that's no longer valid. But I think so it will force companies to become much sharper focused, much more frugal in their approach, more focused on solving real business issues. And I think at the end of this, we'll have a very good set of robust, healthy companies. So I think this will lead to a good outcome. But do you think the situation is going to get a little worse before we see some sort of an improvement? Because, or how would you compare it to the previous cycles that we've seen, whether it was 2008, 2015, these tech booms and busts that we've seen? There is a lot of dry powder with investors, but they're a little risk averse at the moment. So where do you see light at the end of this tunnel? Well, we don't know how this will pan out because, the startup boom of India began only 5 years back. In 2016, we had only 1,000 startups. Now we have 90,000 startups. So the first time that the startup world has encountered this kind of challenges. So we have to see how it goes. But I think at the end of it, it will lead to a healthier, more robust, more frugal, business-oriented ecosystem. And finally, if I may ask you, what next for you? You've donned many hats. You built the UPI. You're advising the OnDC. You're, of course, the non-executive chairperson of Infosys. What is the next big project? No, actually, it's, many of these things are still only halfway there, so there's lots to be done. Another area which I'm partnering is I've set up a AI center at IIT Madras for AI in Indian languages called AI for Bharat. So that is another area where I think we can see some great progress in the coming years. Okay, before I let you go, there is something we wanted to do, which is a quick question-answer session. So if you would keep your answers very brief, I have a couple of questions for you, starting with 3 things that Indian startups are doing right today. Ambition, execution, and getting product market fit right. What are the 3 things that they're doing absolutely wrong? I think spending money to acquire customers, not being frugal enough, and not getting their product market fit right. Are unicorns going to be a more rare sighting as they should be now? I think maybe the numbers may come down, but anyone who becomes a unicorn now will be there because they really create a great company. An investment that you've made which you regret? No, I won't say anything on that. Okay, of the many achievements that you've had, which one are you most proud of? Well, I think it's Infosys and Aadhaar. Okay. Infosys, these are the big two. And this will be India's decade because? Because India is in the right place at the right time, with the right energy, the right people, and the right market opportunities. Your thoughts on cryptos and NFTs that are all the rage these days? Well, I'm still trying to find a reason for their existence. OnDC, the account aggregator, or the CBDC, what is the biggest game changer for India's digital journey going ahead? Well, all of them, but I think democratization of credit through AA will allow millions of businesses to flourish. That's very important, and they'll create jobs.
You know, we have the Infosys and the TCS and all the big IT companies of the world. We're still the back office of the world. What is it going to take for us to have Googles and Amazons and Facebooks out of India?
Well, I don't think we're just the back office. I mean, if you look at the work done by companies like Infosys, they're actually doing digital transformation for the world's largest companies. And that's actually the sweet spot for India. So I think it's perfectly good that in this sector we are the world leaders.
Okay, and lastly, because you are called the Chief Technology Officer and all things digital, what are some of your favorite apps? What are the apps on your phone that you use the most?
I keep my life very simple. I don't use any social media except Twitter to send stuff out.
Not even UPI payments on your phone?
I do UPI. I use UPI payments and I use the DigiLocker to keep my documents.
Well, that was Nandan Nilekani on startups, on CBDC, on the data protection bill and a whole lot more. But I also spoke with Professor Fleming, who is the chairperson of the NGO Unleashed, which collaborated with Infosys to hold the Global Innovation Lab in their Mysore campus earlier this month. The idea is to bring together youth from around the world to come together and co-create ideas for a sustainable future. Have a look.
Well, I met Nandan down in World Economic Forum in January 2020, and I presented the idea of Unleashed, and Nandan was very kind to say, I'd like to invite you here to Bangalore and to meet with me. And I met with Nandan in the late February 2020 and discussed the Unleashed and so forth here. And I left India again thinking that we should come back in December 2020. But, Corona came and now we're here. And why here? Well, I mean, I'm truly amazed about Infosys. Infosys is a fantastic company, investing a lot of education of the youth here, but also a very sustainable company. And I must say that being here for a week here together with the talents, I mean, they love to be here. Most beautiful campus, most sustainable campus, excellent food, excellent environment. So we have a fantastic week here.
Well, I'll ask you some of the good ideas that have come in from this 1 week long event. What really stood out for you? Something you'd like to share?
I think maybe the most, although there's been a lot of fantastic solutions, maybe the most important thing for me is actually empowering these people here. We're going through this process of actually learning how to formulate a problem, going into ideation phase, prototyping, solving a problem, working together in a very diverse group, as Nandan is saying. So we are simply empowering them. So they will certainly keep working with their solution, but they will also go out and use that methodology either in their companies, in their startup companies, with NGOs, or in their small communities. And, I mean, this morning I met a lady who was born in a refugee camp in Syria. She managed to get education. She managed to go to UK for doing a master and PhD, and now she's developing a solution with wastewater, converting that into biofuel, which works in refugee camps, just to mention one solution here. So it's pretty amazing to see the energy and excitement for the young people.
Well, that was all the time we had today. Thank you for watching, and it's a goodbye from all of us.